original.
Hello and welcome to Web Crawlers, the podcast where we do a deep dive into some of our favorite mysteries. Each week, we will introduce our topic, lay out our research and findings, reveal some conspiracy theories, and conclude with our own hypothesis. I am Allie Siegel.
I am Melissa Stettin.
And I, producer Maria.
Melissa, who are our patrons for this week?
We've got Elle, Oscar, Natalie, and James.
Thank you guys for your patronage. I am super excited for our episode today. We have tons of guests. We had no idea that everyone was going to say yes. So we have 3 guests today. We have John Tenney and his friend Jessica are going to be on. And they have both visited the place that we're going to be talking about. We have a tarot card reader who's going to read my tarot for my love life and do a general reading.
I'm most excited about that.
I'm so excited. And then we also have a psychic who lives in the place that we are talking about. And I'm going to stop beating around the bush. We are talking about spiritualist communities. And what does that mean? It's towns, cities where the only people who live there are psychics and mediums and
That's
healers
crazy.
And tarot card readers. Totally nuts.
This is where Allie's going to retire to.
Yeah. I honestly was looking at real estate and you can buy a house for as little as $40,000, like fixer-uppers. Crazy. But
Really?
you have to be approved by the town first. You can't just buy it. You have to be approved by the council.
This is all stuff you need to ask Celeste, our person that's a resident there, because maybe and also she could maybe vouch for you if she likes you
Give me
enough.
an in. Yeah, she can give me an in.
Oh.
So anyways, there's 3 of these different communities. One is called Lilydale, which is how I first got kind of privy to these communities.
Yeah, there's a documentary about this.
Yes, on HBO called No One Dies in Lilydale. I'm dying to visit. Then I found there's another one called Casadega Spiritualist Community in Florida. And then there is a third called Camp Chesterfield. So we're going to be getting into all of those today. And Celeste, our psychic, lives in Lilydale. First things first, let's talk about Lilydale, this community where every single person who lives there is literally a psychic or a medium, a healer. And it's 275 people who live there, all psychics, and you can visit. They get 22,000 visitors a year who come to get classes, workshops, to visit the church services there, to hear lectures, or to get a medium, to get an appointment with a medium and to get read. It's kind of like, I was thinking about, it's kind of like food trucks. Like, you know how when there's a Friday night art festival and there's food trucks down the street and you can visit every food truck. Yeah, like an art walk and you can visit every food truck. That's kind of what Lilydale is like, where it's just a street and every house is a medium and you can go medium to medium and get yourself a reading. It's really crazy. It's located in the town of Pomfret on the east side of Casadega Lake in New York State, in southwestern New York State. This is their kind of creed. Remember, this is and always will be a spiritualist camp. Hold fast to this truth and say to those who would have it something else, the world is wide, so go your way. We would have no new gods placed upon the altar. Spiritualism is enthroned in this camp, and outside issues must be kept to their own realm. Guests to be entertained, but not allowed to monopolize or overthrow the camp. From Marion Skidmore, 1894.
Interesting.
So I found this history of the camp. It's from a spiritual historian named Ron Nagy. Here's how it started. So there's a small village called Laona. And that's a few miles from Lilydale, also in New York. There was a mesmerist named Dr. Morin. Mesmerism is hypnotism. That's what they called
mesmerism.
Yeah. So, and actually, it's interesting. I am currently getting my certification in hypnotherapy, and they call it mesmerized or mesmerism because it was created by this guy, Franz Mesmer.
That's like the same thing as like the crapper.
Huh?
In the toilet.
Excuse me? Why?
You know that like the toilet, it's not because like you crap on a toilet. It's because the guy who invented it last name was Crapper.
Stop it. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
So the word crap came from him?
I don't know if it did, but I know like I'm going to go sit on the crapper.
That would be a hell of a coincidence.
Yeah, that's probably where we got the word crap.
Because does mesmerize come from this person, Francis Mesmer or whoever, William Mesmer?
Yeah, that's where it came from because it was created by Franz Mesmer. So then they called it mesmerizing and mesmerist. But that eventually turned into hypnotherapy. But that was the original term.
So Mesmer is to William as Crapper is to
Thomas.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think people called it the Crapper. It was Thomas Crapper and Company. And it does not, the word crap does not derive from crapper. The origins of the word crap are not entirely known, but it is known that it was commonly used in England to refer to rubbish. So yeah, crap was crap, but crapper invented the toilet.
That's mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think there's a that's too crazy. Anyways, back to this crap. He would lecture in front of people and do these like hypnotherapy shows or like it wasn't really hypnotherapy, but it was more like hypnotism shows. This guy called Mr. Johnson was a minister. He eventually became like the first leaders of Lilydale. And at the time, he was sick or so. What is so funny? You're still looking at toilet stuff.
No, I'm not. Look behind you. Your dogs are going nuts and it's funny.
My dogs are nuts. What else is new?
I love how they come in just into frame to like play.
Because they're trying to ruin my life. This is like nothing new for me. So this guy was sick and they called in this mesmerist to try to like heal him or like to try to make him better. All of a sudden, I guess he was like getting like spiritual messages or, you know, like healing the sick or like getting like mediumship messages. An entity apparently spoke to this doctor and the people present and saying, you know, you have to start a community. The group started regularly meeting and all these other spiritualists started coming to this small town, Laona. And the first spiritualist community in 1855 was actually started there. But in 1873, this guy who also went there, William Alden, said, you know, like, I have this farm outside of Lilydale. Why don't we just start meeting there? You know, it's this like big farm and it has a lot more room and, you know, that'd be a better place for us to meet. So then it was moved to Lilydale and that's how, you know, it got started at Lilydale Assembly.
Oh, interesting.
Tell me about it. So I don't know if you remember, we did a spiritualist episode and we talked about the three sisters, the Fox sisters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They were eventually, I believe, said to have been a hoax, but they would have like seances and they were allegedly mediums, but they were kind of like thought of as the sisters of mediumship and like created mediumship during the spiritualist movement in like the late 1800s. But their cabin, their house that they lived in was actually picked up and moved and taken to Lilydale.
Oh.
If I remember correctly with the Fox sisters, it was the two of them were the mediums, and then their older sister was the one that like took them around and was like their manager. And I think only one of them like said that it was a hoax, and then the other one kind of went to her grave saying it wasn't a hoax.
Yeah. It was Margareta.
Oh, right.
Margareta said that it was a hoax, and the other two were like, no, it's not. Like they were trying to protect their reputation.
Scheming sisters.
Exactly.
Schemers.
So they moved their house to Lilydale. Unfortunately, it burned down there, but they still have it as a monument. And so, yeah, it's this like crazy place. Like Deepak Chopra has spoken there. John Edward, who we have a mutual friend in common with, has spoken at Lilydale.
Yeah.
It's crazy. If you watch this documentary, No One Dies in Lilydale, it's these people have like grown up there or they've moved there, and they just say like they walk around and they just like see ghosts, like talk to ghosts. There's like this it's like near the forest and kind of like near a lake, and they're like, oh yeah, this is like the fairy garden, like this is where the fairies reside. Like,
whoa.
Now, is it, I don't know if you know, like what's the ratio of like women to men, or
what an interesting question.
I'll tell you right now, I bet it's 100 to 1.
No, there's men there too.
well, because this has a real like potential to be like a cult, you know?
Right.
But it doesn't, but it's not that. Like there's no like,
Yeah, there's no call.
and I'm wondering if it is more women.
if that's what's preventing it.
I'm just saying, because most of the cults that go crazy are led by men who end
That's
up having
right.
sex with all
Well,
the
that's
women.
the thing is there's no
right.
leader here. There's not a leader.
Cults never start with a leader, though, do they? There's
not
it's
true.
all
There's
for
always
one,
a
one
leader.
for
They do.
all.
They
Well,
always
well,
start with a leader.
leader.
There's
No,
always
it's
a
always
leader.
one
that's
person.
that's
Not
not
the ones I've been in.
Well,
Yeah, there's no leader here. It's just, I mean, like, it's just a bunch of people with the same spiritual principles
Right.
and the same, you know, more or less profession.
I bet it's so, you know what I bet it feels like? I bet it feels like you're in the movie Practical Magic.
Yes.
Isn't that so
100%.
nice?
Yeah, I think that's so cool.
like if you ever been to Santa Fe and there's like a row of shops that's all just like
yes.
ladies wearing jewelry, like turquoise,
Yeah, lots of
like everyone's
turquoise.
just having a good time, like
Yeah.
just talking to each other. Weird art is everywhere, and
The
everyone's
gift
just
shops
like,
have those CD
Yeah.
stands where it's like Native American sounds and stuff,
Music?
but you can press the button and then
Yes.
it plays it for you. There's
It's
a lot
like
of those.
Ojai. I no joke, like I'm
Ojai.
dying to go to this place. So here's it. Well, it says, would you like to join Lilydale Assembly? The membership process is 1, you must be a member in good standing of a recognized spiritualist church for 1 year prior to applying
Oh.
for membership in Lilydale Assembly.
I wonder if Melissa can get in because she's part of the Church of Satan.
Church of Satan.
Satanic Temple.
A copy of your current church card must be received in the office.
There it
So you have
is.
a
There
card.
it is.
I've got my what's funny is yesterday I was looking through like all my tax papers, so I had to find stuff, and I was like sorting through. I was like this, and then my Satanic Temple like membership thing. Like Martin was looking at me. He's like, "Oh, I got this. Got my Satanic membership. I got this. I got my receipts." It's
Oh
just
my
a
God.
funny thing that happened.
So you have to pay a fee. Oh, you have to get letters of reference. Family members cannot
wow.
be accepted as references. Then you have to make an appointment with the Lilydale office and you have to be interviewed. Next, you request to meet with the Lilydale Board of Directors to discuss your intentions.
Damn,
And then you're notified. And you have to do all that before you buy a house. And
I like it.
Wow.
They vet their members.
It's like a homeowners association.
How large is this
There's
town?
275 people. He said?
3-mile walking radius, 144 acres of registered old growth forest adjacent to the Casadega Lakes region.
That sounds nice. 3-mile radius.
A resident may walk the woodland trails, kayak, fish, or swim at our beach. There are several year-round churches, Healing Temple, Wednesday night service, working committees, home circles, monthly Sunday brunch, and daily gatherings at our post office.
Come on.
And I
mean-
wonder
What
if
the brunch is?
Well, no, I was wondering what the restaurants are like. Like, do they have good restaurants, do you think?
I read that somewhere. There's like 2 eateries or something. I think
Because
there's
I
only,
could
like,
move
2
there and kind of
restaurants.
like maybe create a restaurant that was like the spot to be, like the hot spot.
Yeah, like a little casual cafe.
Casual Cafe, Maria's Cash Caf.
Casual cafe.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 houses for sale now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ranging from $49,000 to $159,000. So, but
It's
I mean,
extremely affordable.
yes, but again, you have to be approved.
Right.
Okay, let's move on to this next spiritualist community, Casadega Spiritualist Community. Now, this one's in Florida, and we know Florida is wild. They call this the psychic capital of the world. And this is kind of an offshoot of Lilydale. So this is from their website. So this is the prophecy. George Colby, a young spiritualist from New York, was told during a seance that he would someday be instrumental in founding a spiritualist community in the South. And this seance was in Lilydale. That prophecy was fulfilled in 1875 when Colby was led through the wilderness of Central Florida by his spirit guide Seneca to an area surrounded by uncommon hills. And then the camp was formed. Colby homesteaded land there, but continued to travel and work as a medium. He later learned that his associates in Lilydale were interested in founding a winter spiritualist camp in Florida. As a result, the Southern Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp Meeting Association was formed in 1894. I find it interesting that Lilydale is next to Cassadaga Lake or whatever, and then so is the Cassadaga place. Like, what is with this?
Wait, are they named after?
They're both next to this lake or
weird.
whatever. So today, the Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp now consists of approximately 57 acres with 55 homes. Everyone there is a psychic. Those who reside here have chosen to live in a community of spiritual people where they can worship and work in harmony with their beliefs. Many of the camp's residents are mediums and healers, so I guess not all, most, who offer their services from their homes or apartments. We as spiritualists welcome you, no matter your religion, believer, skeptic, curious. You can come visit and get a reading. So there are 9 principles of spiritualism that all these small towns live by. It's a little wordy, so we can try to figure out what it is. The first one, by this we express our belief in a supreme impersonal power, everywhere present, manifesting as life through all forms of organized matter, called by some God, by other spirits, and by spiritualists, infinite intelligence. So to me, how I perceive that is that there's no doctrine as it comes to God, that there's just like a higher power, whatever you believe that is, and it's personal to every person who experiences it.
That's nice.
And it's just like a divine intelligence. I'm on board for that. 2, in this manner, we express our belief in the immanence of spirit and that all forms of life are manifestations of spirit or infinite intelligence, and thus all men are children of God. Again, I'm on board of that and on board with that. 3, a correct understanding of the laws of nature on the physical, mental, and spiritual planes of life and living in accordance therewith will unfold the highest aspirations and attributions of the soul, which is the correct function of true religion. So I think that, you know, how I perceive that is like being grateful for nature and like appreciating like the world around you, and like the golden rule, like treat others how you treat yourself, and like leave things better than you found it. Okay, 4, life here and life hereafter is all one life whose continuity of consciousness is unbroken by the mere change in form, whose process we call death. Energy never goes away. So I think they essentially believe that, you know, in the continuity of consciousness, which is why I think they believe in mediumship. Like,
and it's haunted as hell.
It's haunted.
Is what they mean.
Ha.
5, spirit communication has been in evidence in all ages of the world and is amply recorded in both sacred and profane literature of all ages. Orthodoxy has accepted these manifestations and has interpreted them in dogma and creed in terms of the supernatural. Spiritualism accepts and recognizes these manifestations and interprets them in the understanding and light of natural law. Spirits are real. 6, this precept we believe to be true. It points the way to harmony, peace, and happiness. Wherever tried, it has proven successful, and when fully understood in practice, will bring peace and happiness to the man on earth. So living with these principles equals peace and joy. 7, man himself is responsible for the welfare of the world in which he lives, for its welfare or its misery. So everything, the world is a function of how you behave in it. 8, we discard entirely the terrible, wrong, and illogical teachings of eternal damnation. So like there's no hell. And in place thereof, we accept and present for consideration of thinking people the thought of the continuity of life beyond the change called death. So maybe that's reincarnation. A natural life or the opportunity for growth and progress to better, higher, and more spiritual conditions are open to all, even as they are here on earth, on the earth plane of life. So blah, blah, there's no hell. 9, we thus affirm our belief in and acceptance of the truths and assertions that prophecy and mediumship are not unique nor of recent occurrence alone. So the ability to speak to those who have passed is not something new, nor is it something like unique to these people. Like everyone can do it if they're in touch with like these spiritual principles. So also as a side note, like Bright Eyes has an album called Cassadaga.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
And Tom Petty has a song called Cassadaga, which talks about psychics. So that's cool.
Interesting.
Okay, so our last town, which we'll just get into for a second because it's pretty much all the same thing, is this place called Historic Camp Chesterfield. And this place is in Indiana, which surprised me because that doesn't really seem like a place where spiritualism would be thriving. But maybe that's just judgmental. So
I beg to differ.
that is true. That's true.
I've spent a lot of time in Indiana. And
Kalamazoo, Melissa. So in the middle of the Midwest is a spiritualist community. 44 acres, one of the largest spiritualist communities in the U.S. They have a hotel, a book and gift store, chapel, cathedral, garden of prayer, a labyrinth.
Ooh, a labyrinth.
I want to start a town. Like, what? This seems like you just like buy a bunch of land and you start a little community. I mean, what's to stop anyone?
I know. I don't really understand like how this works. They also have classes. They have distance learning classes. Let's click here.
Wow.
Let's see what classes they have.
Hey, if you have enough money, you can buy a certain amount of acres.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
this
then
is
you're
cool.
like, this is Town Melissa.
Town Melissa.
Melissaville. They have a class.
Melissaville.
This is cool. African American spiritualists who were civil rights leaders in the 1800s. That's a cool class.
Ooh.
Numerology, healing addictive behavior.
They have a historic district that has a totem pole.
Cool. Yeah. So, and again, you can visit here and like get a reading with a medium. So pretty cool beans, all these different places.
So let's take a quick break and then we're going to talk to a psychic who actually lives and works in Lilydale.
Web Crawlers has a Patreon to get access to rewards, bonus episodes a day early without ads, video versions of episodes. Please go to patreon.com/webcrawlers. You can donate as little as $2 a month, or you can do a flat fee for the entire year. So it's just like $20 and you're a patron. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And as always, please send us voicemails that we can play on our mailbag. Insert jingle here.
626-604-6262.
All right, so now we have Celeste Elliott, who is a psychic medium at Lilydale. Celeste, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So how did you find yourself coming to Lilydale?
Actually, I came to Lilydale for the first time when I was 21. I was in college and I was doing a internship for a small nonprofit. And we were on our way from Ohio, where I'm originally from, up to Toronto for a fundraiser. And we stopped over in Lilydale because there were some folks here that my then boss was friends with in the town.
Oh my God.
And we wanted to pick up some supplies and things for a trip that we were going to be taking, like donations to be taking with us later that month. And that the rest, as they say, is history. So
what made you stay there? Or like, when did you end up moving back? Or what kind of like attracted you to it?
the next summer, or actually, I think later that summer, I had an opportunity to go back again and spend some time with my mom and one of her friends. My mom actually found the town about a year before I did.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up, my mom and I always used to jokingly say to each, or at the time we thought it was serious, but we always used to say to each other, oh, I'm going to be out of college soon. This will be our last summer together. We should spend time together. And it was this very sweet little mother-daughter thing. Cut to today, and we live together in Lilydale.
Oh, wow.
That's honestly going to be me and my mom, 100%.
So we have a good time together. That wasn't, our intention, but it's how things unfolded. So I wanted to spend a little time with her, and there was a class that taught meditation and intuitive development and healing. And I was not really interested in mediumship, intuitive developing, but I really wanted to learn how to meditate. And because I had been doing mediumship from the time I was a child. So to me, I was like old hat, it didn't. And I grew up around the spiritualist community in Ohio. So I was kind of like, okay, well, a lot of people do this, but spiritual healing wasn't so big in that community. And that was something that really, really, really impressed me in Lilydale and really drew me in. And I thought meditation might be very useful, which it is. And so I just kind of kept coming back. I found that the skills I was learning were very helpful to me in getting my mediumship gift under control, changing it from being a natural thing that happened when it wanted to happen, how it wanted to happen, to going into a developed, polished version of mediumship. And so that was something that, was very, very, very interesting to me. I was, going through my master's program, and the summer after I said, well, I've got a little time before I have to go out into the real world. I was working on my thesis project, and they happened to have an opening for a rental cottage in Lilydale. So I spent the whole summer. I had just finished a ministry program with a church associated with Lilydale. That was a 2-year program. So I it just sort of like, I went out into the world and I kept coming back to Lilydale because there was just something so special about the community and very supportive, particularly for, the younger people who wanted to come in, because there's not a lot of younger spiritualists. It's the religion of people's grandparents and great grandparents.
Right.
Totally.
And the younger generation, I think you're all just a little bit younger than me, but you understand it's more about the spirituality aspect for most people than it is about a religion per se.
Right.
But the philosophy worked for me, and I loved the work. And I never, if you had told me at that time, 20 years ago, that I was going to be just a full-time medium in Lilydale, I would have laughed in your face.
So
like, no, that's, I had other plans, so, but this was just so much more joyful than anything else I could have planned for myself. So,
So you've experienced, or you've had this gift since you were a child, the ability to connect. What was that like, or how did it manifest when you were a kid?
So I've always worked in the connection through emotion, emotional feeling, or gut knowing. And because I turned off the visual when I was quite young because it scared me. And you can do that, you can open it or you can close it, because that was something as a small human, I couldn't handle.
Totally.
Seeing spirit. And particularly because I was seeing spirit that didn't speak to me in opening their mouths. Because spirit people think at you. Everything is energy and emotion. And so they would give me, they would talk to me, but they would talk to me in what I would refer to today as sort of heart to heart. And, but that would make me very nervous when I realized that finally as a child. I also used to see a guide of mine who, when I was very small, I told my mom that I saw the tooth fairy at night. Um, because that was, as like a 4 or 5-year-old, that was my understanding.
What else would you think? Yeah.
Right. Why else would there be an adult woman in my room talking to me in the middle of the night? Right.
Yeah.
And it was always very comforting and very loving. And, but it never occurred to me to say, who are you? So in my head, she was the tooth fairy. But I always have just kind of, had the knowing when somebody else was in the room. And now as an adult, I have better boundaries, of course, where, I'm like a taxi. I'm on when I'm on, when I'm doing a reading or tuning into spirit, for, to connect for myself or someone else. And I am, when I'm not working, I go on the emergency channel or the need to know channel. So I'm not nobody is ever technically all the way off.
Right. Not if you
so
have the gift,
that's an important distinction, I think.
So you said your parents or your mom was like also in the spiritualist community. So like, does she have these kinds of gifts as well? If you're open to talking about that, or is that kind of something you grew up in?
Yes, we would occasionally go to a spiritualist church that was in Ohio, and metaphysical centers. And there was the area that I lived in, the closest thing around, there was a group called the Trumbull County Psychic Research Association.
Oh my God.
And and it was huge. They had like 200 members, and this was in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
It was a big thing. And so all the people that had studied and trained and, had been doing the work for years and years belonged to this group. And it would be like, oh my gosh, did you hear about this new book? And, there'd be like a monthly meeting and somebody,
so cool.
And they would pay the Christmas party was great because they would do, that was my favorite. And so my mom started studying metaphysical things, mediumship, intuitive development in the 80s. And partially, she says, because I was just so mediumistic as a child. And both of my parents they took this approach to raising me that was just sort of like, they left it open to me that if I needed to say something to them about an intuitive knowing or a mediumistic happening, that they would just say, okay.
Yeah.
And then we would all move on with our day. And it wasn't a big deal one way or another. So there was no pressure. And that was, if I'd had stage parents, this would be a very different story right now.
I can imagine. Yeah. Or parents who like got angry with you for saying that kind of stuff or like using that gift or anything like that.
So many people grow up and it's like, you shouldn't know that. You must have been listening to my conversations. You're wrong. You're lying. Or worst case scenario, there's something wrong with you.
You're crazy.
You're the devil.
Yeah.
Totally. Out.
You're really lucky. So what is it like living in Lilydale, in that community, like on a daily basis?
Well, it really is a community. And that's what drew me here. And that's, everybody who lives here is involved in various aspects of the community. So you don't have to be a medium or a healer or anything other than somebody who subscribes to the philosophy of spiritualism to live in Lilydale.
Oh, wow.
But you do have to be a spiritualist to live here.
Yeah.
So that's a bylaw thing. But it's very interesting, because there's the Artisans Guild. And they make crafts and they have a plant sale and it's fundraising, but it's a social aspect and they get together. And I don't know what they're doing right now because of the pandemic, but typically they would get together once a week and they would work on a group project and they would work on individual projects and have lunch. It's a potluck, you can just drop by with the potluck and hang out. And I know, right? And everybody comes to the community brunch once a month, which is a church fundraiser, but it's $5 brunch. And how do you miss that?
Yeah.
And everyone gets together and hangs out. We have a volunteer fire department, which is very typical for Western New York, but also the fire department auxiliary is a very fun crew, and they do a lot. You have the beach committee, you have the environmental committee. I'm chair of the Women's Day committee, which is focused on the women's history aspect, because that's something that is another reason why I am very attracted to spiritualism.
Was it one of the first people at Lilydale, or one of the first speakers, like the suffragettes or a suffragette or something like that? Yeah.
Very first person who spoke in Lilydale when it was established was a woman, and she was a suffragist.
Wow.
And
I forgot to say that earlier.
Yes. And we had really, really big names in the suffrage movement, which you have to understand, Chautauqua County that we're located in was a huge area for the women's suffrage movement. So we ended up with Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Dr. Anna Howard Shaw. I could give you like 15, 20 names. And so we have been really in-depth exploring that. But this is a religion that was founded in some ways by women, not for women necessarily, but by women. And so we had an equal voice from the beginning when that was unheard of.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's so funny, because our podcast network that this is on, Erios, our slogan is a podcast network by women for everyone.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's perfect.
Same thing.
Yeah, we're our own Lilydale.
Yeah. So you put the energy out there and I fell right in.
There you go. I guess my last question is so what, I know that there's, I think it was 300 people or so who live there, but then the tourism, I think, is a big aspect of Lilydale. What is that? I know I saw the documentary with my mom several years ago, and we were we have to go here because me and my mom are totally into this kind of stuff. But what is the tourism aspect like for those who visit?
Because we are technically a spiritualist camp, that's how we were founded when church camps were very, very popular. And so we have a summer camp season every year that is the last weekend in June through the Labor Day holiday, which we're typically, sometimes it's 9 weeks, but we have made a concerted effort the last few years to make sure that it's always 10 weeks, regardless. So we'll change the dates around if we have to, make it a little earlier. But in the summer, there's daily events, there's weekly events, there's morning meditation, there's 2 healing temple services a day. There's 3 outdoor mediumship message services a day. There's classes and workshops on the grounds. There's thought exchange, which is this part of the spiritualist movement from the very beginning, where you just go and literally exchange thoughts and ask questions. There's, which it's very, very open to new ideas, which great. Is, we're committed to changing as we know better, we grow. Yeah. It's just, although the hallmarks of mediumship of the camp have really always been kind of spiritual tourism, it's really based on this very loving philosophy of personal growth and evaluation, and knowing that we have that love and support from the people in the spirit world.
Yeah. And if someone wanted to come to Lilydale, could they book an appointment with you, or how does that work?
Yeah, there are, I believe, 40 some mediums on the grounds.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
That is a lot considering we have 12 streets. Not that big a town. But so there's a very rigorous testing process that takes a couple of years, and you have to have, depending on the year when you go do the final testing, somewhere between 92 to 100% accuracy on the tests to be able to be approved and call yourself a registered Lilydale medium. So we take great pride in that. That is, I didn't want to be a professional medium just out in the world, but I wanted to be one here because it meant something to me for that reason. So we push each other, and we're always, learning and growing, and people can look on the website, lilydaleassembly.org, under Find a Medium, and see who they're drawn to. They can book with me. They could book with just about anybody that's registered by calling or going to their website or whatever. And it is harder to come and just sign up the day of.
Right, I'm sure.
Although most of us try to accommodate people in the summer by leaving a slot or two open. And you'll see little signs in the windows that say, appointments available, with a little sign-up sheet,
Oh my God.
So, that, which is great. I love getting somebody who would ordinarily never be into this sort of thing, but they're there and they're like, maybe I'll try the experience, one time. And not because I'm trying to prove anything, but because I think, I know that Spirit has sent them to me, and I know that, it's going to plant a seed for them somehow, and bring some healing or some inspiration.
For sure.
So it's super fun.
I don't know if you're allowed to disclose it all, but are you allowed to say like what the vetting process was like? Because it's so cool that you guys actually have to have that kind of accuracy in order to call yourself a medium there. Yeah.
And we're of course not the only organization that certifies. There are churches and different groups, but for us, you have to belong to a spiritualist church. That's number one. You have to belong to the assembly. You need letters of recommendation from people that you've trained under. And you have to, so we want to know that the ethics, the standards are that what you're doing before you come in. Okay.
Right.
By and large, these are people who already have a pretty robust practice. They're not just somebody who's like, I'm just gonna, test and try for this, and so once you get through all of that, you are considered a candidate. And you will go out to the outdoor message services, and you have to do so many during the summer, and people will be evaluating you on your work at the outdoor services. And we have something called Monday night circles. Same deal. You have to do X number of them. And, so that people can evaluate, how are you able to do the private readings? Are you able to do the public readings? Because in Lilydale, which is very unusual for other places, you have to be able to do both private mediumship and public mediumship, which are two different animals completely.
Yeah.
And I mean, same skill set, but totally different ways to practice. So,
oh my gosh.
And it's very natural that at different stages of your career as a medium, you're going to be more drawn towards one or the other. You're going to be stronger in one towards the other. So you go through all of that for an entire summer. And then you are sort of evaluated. And then the next summer you come back and you do your actual testing, and you repeat the whole process over again. And then at the end of it, you are tested by the community members, the assembly board of directors, the mediums league. There's a whole way that it's put together, so that it's, fair and accurate. And, Yeah.
Wow.
So
I would.
it's a lot of pressure.
I was going to say I would crack under that pressure because I feel like spiritualists are already so emotional to begin with, and I would be like,
right?
just like cry halfway through,
Right. Yeah.
every day.
Which, when I get misty, it's because I'm already it's because I'm connecting with spirit in the heart space anyway. So
Totally.
it's pretty.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's who I am.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
Melissa and Maria, do you guys have any questions before?
No, it's
Celeste
very
go?
fascinating. I'm just so intrigued by this community. It just sounds so lovely.
I'm
Well,
obsessed.
it really is. And it's, we are, part of our grounds is actually an old growth forest. And we call the Leolin Woods. We're one of a few in New York State. But yeah, people come and, they'll wander the grounds just to get a sense of peace. We're right on a lake. We've got trees all around us. We try to keep it very peaceful, especially in the summer. There's no construction in the summer unless it's an emergency. Because we like to have as much quiet and calm for people. Occasionally there's somebody over, at Forest Temple. That's one of the places where they do the messages outside, playing a flute or guitar or something that, there's ambiance here. There's also cafes, there's a cafe, there's shops, there's restaurants, there's, so it's a very nice experience, even for people who aren't looking to come for a reading or participate in something in that way. Sort of like the department store has the bored spouse chair, with ESPN outside the waiting area. So, we've got a museum and we've got a research library. And so,
oh, how cool.
Yeah. So these are ways that we try to serve, to be present for people.
Informational experience.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Celeste, if people want to reach you or book a session with you or something like that, where can they do so?
They can actually go to my website, which is celesteelliott.com.
Awesome.
And they can also find my website right off the Lilydale site, which is lilydaleassembly.org.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been so awesome. I am so feel so honored that we got to talk to you. I've been so obsessed with Lilydale for so long. So thank you so much and have such a good rest of the day.
Thanks. My pleasure. Have a good day.
To listen to an interview with a couple people who have actually been to Lilydale, as well as a tarot card reading about Allie's love life, listen to part 2 of our Lilydale episode.
An Erios original.
Powered by Acast.